Hey Twitch, YouTube, internet world, welcome back. Had some lunch. Hope you've all eaten or done whatever you're doing, wherever you are in the world. But we're back. So the last session was the web series that I'm working on, Filth. So go check that out. This is going to be a short segment. I've probably got an hour or something. I've got to smash out a podcast. So there's a company, Apricot Consulting, and they've started their own podcast where they just talk to different CEOs. It's a lunch coming up, talking to different CEOs and other businessmen and women about things to do with good practices within your organization, all that kind of stuff. I should probably know more because I listen to it every time, but so be it. It's not my area of expertise. So basically, we just get a 2-track. So these guys, I've set them up with a mobile phone external sort of sound card that they just plug straight in, and they've got a couple of Rode podcasting mics. So we're just going to import that. So we've got a little intro sting, which I recorded. Actually, sorry, I'm going to have to change my outputs. Sorry about that. I didn't make sure that this was set up for the stream as well. And I need to turn on my speakers. Sorry, I was set up for my 5.1 mixing setup. Cool. Yeah, all good now.
You're listening to Inside Healthy Teams by Apricot Consulting, a series that draws on the experience of experts to unearth the principles of personal and team leadership. For more information, go to apricotconsulting.us.
Might recognize that voice. So I recorded that one a while ago for them. So what we've got here, 2 channels. What
Welcome
I'll do
to Inside Healthy Teams from Apricot Consulting.
We'll bypass everything at the moment.
Revealing conversations with execs designed to help leaders build healthy teams and organizations.
So we've got a mouth to click.
We look to help organizations live their purpose, strengthen connections.
We've got this McDSP SA2. That's a dialogue. It's basically a multi-band de-esser. So there's like 5 different frequencies that it tackles, and it's noise. And then we've got a bit of compression at the end.
Welcome
there.
to Inside Healthy Teams from Apricot Consulting.
But depending on the situation, I've been using a little bit of denoise, just more for the reverb and stuff, depending on the room they're in. The mic's pretty good, pretty isolated, but it's nice to also just get rid of the other person in their mic as well. So we keep it on adaptive mode's fine, but we won't put that much. We really just want to tickle it at the end. So we're going to do that. I've got a feeling Vocal Writer. Have we got Vocal Writer's back? Great. So the good thing with Vocal Writer is it kind of just levels out the dialogue without compressing it. So we're just going to, let's level this gain out. Clip gain. Always in the soft areas of organizations. So if you look at
the hard stuff,
this guy, so see
that along the way to the point now.
Sorry, this whole time got to change my camera angle. You twit. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so silly me. So it doesn't matter. None of that was important anyway. So what we've got here is we've got our intro, outro.
Consulting, a series that draws on the experience of experts to unearth the...
Basically the same sort of thing at the end, which we'll cut in depending on how we're going. We've got our 2 channels of audio, so it's the 2-track from their recorder. Sorry about that. You were looking at my pretty face the whole time. So what we've got is we've got a little bit of denoising, which is not that important with these mics, but
Healthy Teams from
it helps
Apricot
to
Consulting.
just get rid of some of the reverb and stuff, as I was saying. And then we've got
Welcome to Inside Healthy Teams from Apricot Consulting.
This will
Revealing
just
conversations
level
with
out
execs
the
designed to
dialogue
help leaders build
without
healthy
compressing it.
teams
It's
and
basically like
organisations.
me writing the
We
fate
look
of
to
it
help
being more
organisations
responsive
live
than
their
I can probably
purpose,
be
strengthen
on my
connections,
own.
and deliver business impact. On this podcast, we're joined by founder
Okay, so
and
we've got a bit
CEO
of clipping
Derek Linsell.
there.
Derek has been the CEO for 18 years. Today, we discuss the important...
We're going to just quickly, I think the rest will be fine. I think it's just that
healthy
first bit of
organisation.
dialogue.
Terrific. So you mentioned one of those...
So we're just going to go in and we're going to get iZotope's declip. Going to play that through.
Welcome to Inside Healthy Teams from Apricot Consulting. Revealing conversations with execs designed to help leaders build healthy teams and organisations. We look to help organisations live their purpose, strengthen connections, and deliver business impact. On this podcast, we're joined by founder and CEO Derek Linsell. Derek has been the CEO for 18 years.
So it's really just that one line. So we
On
just
this
want to...
podcast, we're joined
There
by
we go.
founder and CEO. On this podcast, by founder and CEO Derek Linsell. On this podcast, we're joined. On this podcast, we're joined by founder and CEO Derek Linsell. Derek has been the CEO for 18 years. Today, we discuss the important topic of engagement. A buzzword today, and particularly now, business that you're
listen back
involved
to
in.
this.
So as you said, I've been involved with Apricot right from the very beginning, and we've moved it from a single practice.
He's obviously not quite as
consultancy
much on the
to
mic.
where we've now got
We might
offices
give him a
around the world.
Bit of boost.
We've focused always in
Bit of clip
the
gain is nice
soft
and quick
areas
and
of
easy way to fix
organisations,
things.
because the soft stuff's the hard stuff.
And we're just
we've
using
tweaked that along the way
Pro
to the point
Tools
now
as
that one of the most
channel strip,
exciting things
just
for me
easy to get
is
quick.
the development of our culture impact.
It's easy to get quick. Let's just pull their gain down. But what we'll do is we will, you know what, let's just start afresh.
Derek has been the CEO for 8.
So we're just going to slightly gate.
So as you said, I've been involved with Apricot
Cut the top
right
off,
from
a
the
little
very
bit of
beginning, and
compression.
we've
So we're going
moved
to
it from
go
a single practice
maybe
consultancy
20-ish
to a
tack,
where we've now got offices
pretty
around the
quick
world.
release.
We've focused
Bit of a knees
always
fine.
in the soft
We
areas.
just kind of want to cut the top off a little
because
bit.
the soft stuff's the hard stuff.
And we also
And
want
we've
to
tweak that along the way to the point now that one of the most exciting things for me is the development
basically
of
when he stops,
that
and we want
makes
to try to
a
avoid
healthy
too much of a
culture
bleed from his
and,
mic.
a healthy
So we're
organisation.
gonna.
Terrific.
So we're getting a bit there. What we can also do is a bit of a side chain as well, so an internal side chain.
Yeah.
A bit of a buzzword today.
Yeah.
Everyone
We
wants to
can-
talk about engagement.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots of engagement surveys out in the marketplace. What does engagement look like to you, and what's some of the research showing you
We could do.
around perhaps reimagining it, or perhaps some insights that maybe we haven't been focusing enough on?
Well, the key factor of engagement is what I would say is engaging the heart. Most organisations, most corporates,
We can open
they're
the
lucky
release a
if
little
they
bit, just
engage
so
the
that
head. That's
it's a
people
bit more
bring their
natural.
mind to work and so on. But real engagement's where you actually begin to engage
we might
the heart.
boost
where you're,
Derek's
people are giving that more
up here.
than just rocking up from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, but they're actually giving their ideas, they're giving their thoughts, they're giving their passion. That's what real engagement is. What's interesting is I'm fascinated to see this trend
Got some.
and how it's become more trendy over.
Fat, we'll keep a bit of the lows there. We don't want to roll it off too much.
Because what
we
it's
have
very
got a
much
bit
to do
of.
with the whole.
Whoops. We have got a
retain,
bit
how you
of.
attract and retain good quality staff, and it's often around engagement. What's
Around there, we
interesting
just don't
to me
need that.
though is that as the rise of engagement
Bad
surveys,
syphilis there.
it's almost as if corporations
copy
are
and paste
trying
that
to
across.
deal with engagement by giving.
We'll double check his dialogue.
And I guess building on that, it's interesting.
It's unsolo.
Some of the segments of the workforce that least engage. What has your research shown you?
Well, the lowest is the 25 to 35-year-olds. I guess if you like the classic Gen Y generation, where they're not the ones that don't stay long in the workplace, and people are trying to connect them in with what
Might
I would call
just
some trinkets. What our research is
of,
showing is, because these folks are that age, are really connected into issues of justice and compassion and environmental issues. Once again, connecting
and what
back
we can
into
do is
deeper things
just,
of
I
life,
love
deeper things of
Final Mix is
organisations.
cool, or I
Why
use
this is so interesting is because
I also
over the last 20,
use
30
Neutron
years in
now
corporate
because you
history,
can
corporates have moved
basically
away
it's
from some
normal
of the
EQ,
deeper
or you can also do
aspects,
dynamic EQ.
just into, if you like, let me be crass, of it's all about making money. No, it's not all about making money.
So that's
That's a
whistling
given.
there.
You've got to do
Let's
that
go.
to stay healthy or
Get
to
rid of
stay
that.
alive. But
We
if
can
you
use
want to
multiband
keep
as
your
well,
good quality
or
people,
sorry, dynamics
you can't just focus
EQ, so
around
it's
the
not
money.
just
It's
always
got to be
getting rid
about
of it.
what difference they are making in the broader workplace. So engagement happens where you connect back into the meaning and the purpose of the organisation, because it came into being for, I don't know how long it's been, it's came into being for a purpose at some stage, connected back into that, but also through shared value programs and corporate responsibility programs, engaging into
might use that
actually
for up
what is
here.
it doing in the community, what's it doing
Make
beyond
that dynamic
itself,
as
what's
well.
it doing in giving
rid
it
of that.
away. That's where you begin to tap into some
Bring
of that
back some
engagement
body.
of that generation of
Just want to make sure
25
we
to
don't have that
35.
limiter on because it adds
You mentioned shared value
delay.
before.
Let's
How is
go
that
back
different
here.
from a CSR program when you're wrapping that back into an engagement? What's your experience of Apricot being in the shared value space, and how's that
That's
driving
annoying me,
engagement?
so we're going to get rid of
good
that.
question.
And a bit
So
in
corporate
here.
responsibility is, if you like, for 25 to 35.
You mentioned shared value before. How is that different from a CSR program when you're wrapping that back into an engagement? What's your experience of Apricot being in the shared value space, and how's that driving engagement?
Yeah, good question. So corporate responsibility for 25 to 35.
You mentioned shared value before. How is that different from a CSR program when you're wrapping that back into an engagement? What's your experience of Apricot being in the shared value space, and how
Must understand the past. It's a key of strategic planning.
so companies who are then looking to build engagement, where do they start? Do they
Just a
go
bit
to
of
market for an engagement
that
survey?
frequency there is kind of where the
So
reverb.
companies who are
in the
then
room
looking
is
to build
just-
engagement,
we can
where do they
pull that out,
start? Do
you
they
just get a
go to
little bit
market
less
for an
room.
engagement survey? What would you be suggesting as the pathway forward?
I think they've got to be really clear about the development of what is their purpose. And it's not a purpose statement. I was with a client recently where they
Wanna make
came
sure we
up
don't
with
get too
just
much
a purpose
plosive there.
statement, and it was just some pithy corporate statement that had no connection. The key of
Okay, so we're just going to go back a little bit.
leadership. For more information, go to apricotconsulting.us.
Don't need that. So we can bump that back. Oh, our nudges value is very low. Let's go 1 second. So basically, as our music fades out,
Consulting.us.
Welcome to Inside Healthy to
Yeah,
Inside
maybe
Healthy to
go a little
Inside.
bit
Welcome
further.
teams from.
there we go.
US.
Welcome to Inside Healthy Teams from Apricot Consulting. Revealing conversations with execs designed to
keep
help
this in.
leaders build
Keeps a
healthy
bit of room.
teams and
It's
organizations.
not that bad.
We look to help organizations live their purpose, strengthen connections, and deliver business impact. On this podcast, we're joined by founder and CEO Derek Linsell. Derek has been the CEO for 18 years. Today, we discuss the important topic of engagement, a buzzword today, and particularly now with the global realities of the coronavirus. Welcome, Derek.
G'day, James. How you doing?
Very well. Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and the business that you're involved in.
So as you said, I've been. How you doing?
Got a
Very
bit
well.
of clipping there as well.
Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and the business that you're involved
Okay,
in.
just fix
So
that.
as you said, I've been
Declip.
involved with Apricot right from the very beginning, and we've moved.
Who you are, and the business that you're involved in.
So we're going to go there.
Welcome, Derek.
G'day, James. How you doing?
Very well. Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and the business that you're involved in.
I love clip going for this. You can obviously just use faders as well, depending on if you've got
Yourself,
controller or not.
who you are, and the business that you're involved in.
I was having one of them play up. Maybe I can bring it up here. We'll go touch. I'll just need to bring up Yukon. I'm not sure that one's connected properly. Yeah, okay. For some reason that network's not hooking up. Excuse me for a minute. Something's going on with my network settings, I think. It's all right. If I can't get it working, we'll just keep cracking along. It's connected. Strange. All right, let's not worry about it.
A bit about yourself, who you are, and the business that you're involved in.
So, as you said, I've been involved with Apricot right from the very beginning, and we've moved it from a single practice consultancy to where we've now got offices around the world. We've focused always in the soft areas of organisations, because the soft stuff's the hard stuff. And we've tweaked that along the way to the point now that one of the most exciting things for me is the development of our Culture Impact Index, which is where we've identified the 7 areas of what makes a healthy culture, what makes a healthy team, or what makes a healthy organisation. They being purpose, leadership, engagement, innovation, communication, agility and accountability. And what we found is putting all those together really are the key drivers to what is it that makes a healthy culture and a healthy organisation.
Terrific. So you mentioned one of those areas of health or culture is engagement. It's a bit of a buzzword today. I think everyone likes to talk about engagement. There's lots of engagement surveys out in the marketplace. What does engagement look like to you, and what's some of the research showing you?
I'm just going to boost
Apricot,
the dialogue in general, because
perhaps reimagining or perhaps some insights that
previous
maybe
ones.
haven't been
Normally try and get about
Well, the key factor of engagement is
around minus
what I would
16.
say
So
is
it looks
the
like
heart.
that stuff is a lot quieter there. So what we're going
most
to do,
corporates, they're lucky if they engage the head. That's, people bring their mind to work and so on. But real engagement's where you actually begin to engage the heart.
a bit healthier
Where
volume there.
People are giving that more than just rocking up from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, but they're actually giving their ideas.
Minus 18, minus 16
thoughts,
is
they're
kind of
giving
where we
their
like to sit
passion.
it.
That's
where I
what
like to
real
sit it.
engagement is.
Spotify
What's interesting is
streams everything
I'm
at minus
fascinated
16
to see
LUFS,
this
so
trend
it's a good place to see
and
it.
how it's become more trendy over the last, say, 5 to 10 years. Because what it's
So
very
we're just
much
going
linked
to
with
listen
the
through. We
whole,
just got to check for mistakes and
retain.
stuff.
How do you
Even some of this
retain,
section, if you
attract
want to
and
like
retain good quality
boost it up,
stuff.
if he's getting a bit
And
quiet,
it's
you can do
often
that.
around
It doesn't
engagement.
really matter. A lot of
What's
times people will
interesting
trail
to
off as
me,
well,
though,
so it's good to like
is
stop them
that
from trailing
as
off here.
the rise of engagement surveys,
And
it's
if we want to, we
almost
can
as
also
if we,
dip this stuff
corporations
a little
are
bit
trying
so
to
that
deal with engagement by giving trinkets,
you don't get the
another
room
day
reverb
off,
from
or
the
a
other
day off
person's
for this,
mic.
or allowing the dogs to come to work or whatever. And I'm not decrying any of that. You still must treat people well, must pay people well. But what our research is finding, which to me is fascinating, is that real engagement comes where people connect into the purpose of the organisation, where their purpose as an individual actually connects into the purpose of the organisation, is where you really find real engagement.
Yeah, and I guess building on that, it's interesting when you talk about some of the segments of the workforce that least engage. What has your research shown you?
Well, the lowest is the 25 to 35-year-olds. I guess, if you like, the classic Gen Y generation, where they're not the ones that don't stay long in the workplace, and people are trying to connect them in with what I would call some trinkets. What our research is showing is, because these folks are that age, are really connected into issues of justice and compassion and environmental issues, once again connecting back into deeper things of life, deeper things of organisations. Why this is so interesting is because over the last 20 or 30 years in corporate history, corporates have moved away from some of the deeper aspects, just into, if you like, let me be crass, of it's all about making money. No, it's not all about making money. That's a given. You've got to do that to stay healthy or to stay alive. But if you want to keep your good quality people, you can't just focus around the money. It's got to be about what difference they are making in the broader workplace. So engagement happens where you connect back into the meaning and the purpose of the organisation, because it came into being for, I don't know how long it's
Let me know if you have any questions.
It came into being for a purpose at some stage, connected back into that, but also through shared value programs.
It's mostly just checking that it's all good, keeping it as level as possible. You know, most people are going to be listening in cars and things like that, and you want to make sure they can hear it consistently.
What's it doing in giving away? That's where you begin to tap into some of that engagement of that generation
trail off here,
of 25 to 35.
You mentioned shared value before. How is that different from a CSR program when you're wrapping that back into an engagement? What's your experience of Apricot being in the shared value space, and how's that driving engagement?
Yeah, it's a good question. So corporate responsibility is, if you like, simply about corporations looking to be involved. You know, they've picked up this theme, looking to be involved.
Get to listen to a podcast while you're sitting there.
In kind of tacky terms, it's almost like where the corporate goes and pats, you know, a kid on the top of the head, the poor kid on the top of the head, or the kid with cancer in hospital, gives them money or whatever. What our research is finding is that that is okay, but it doesn't really get the engagement you want. Shared value is where you are serious about engaging with the not-for-profit or the social issue that has benefits for the corporation, benefits for the not-for-profit, and benefits for the broader society.
Pretty much where it is now.
Then you're starting to dig at deeper levels. You're starting to make impact, both with the issue, both with the not-for-profit, and also with the owner organisation, allowing that generation to begin to connect back into there. That works. That's really clever stuff.
Again, you can do it with a fader. I'm just doing it with click gain.
Companies think
Yukon's
about
obviously
the
playing
realities
up.
of coronavirus, and many organisations, we've heard about Google, Amazon, and Facebook moving to remote working models already to preemptively get people out of the office and get people into self-isolation. How do we continue to maintain engagement in those contexts?
I think this is a fascinating time in corporate history, because in many ways people have kind of thought, well, you know, if someone rocks up to work, I've got them engaged. Well, we've known that's been nonsense for ages. What it has done, though, is allowed the sense of team and so on. With the idea of the self-isolating, unless people are truly engaged, unless people have senses of accountability, where culture actually maps into building accountability and so on, I think we're going to see some really interesting things of what comes from this. We already know that, you know, the use of technology is helpful in, you know, having meetings and so on, but we know that it's nowhere near as good as actually sitting in a room full of people where there's all of that social interaction. So how do you build engagement where there isn't that social interaction? That's going to be fascinating. Once again, what our research is showing is that if you build into purpose, build into connection, build into deeper meaning, then I think there's a possibility that that's how we're going to get across some of this.
So companies who are then looking to build engagement, where do they start? Do they go to market for an engagement survey? What would you be suggesting as the pathway forward?
I think they've got to be really clear about the development of what is their purpose. And it's not a purpose statement. I was with a client recently where they came up with
the vocal rider and the compression.
Pithy,
it'll just smooth itself out. We just listen back.
The key
and
of purpose
that needs to be changed,
is it's got to connect into the heart. It must connect into the heart. Why did the organisation come into being? As I said before, all organisations have a reason it came into being. And if you are designing a future, you must understand the past. It's a key of strategic planning. To go forward, you must understand its past. And unless you can say, no, that's not what we're about anymore, then you must go back and connect into that. And my hunch is connect staff back into those drivers. That's where you'll see engagement.
So what else would you do? Would you recommend, just being really practical right now, we're looking to build engagement within the business, Would we go to market for a survey? What would we do?
I'm okay about going to market for a survey. That's okay too. There's no doubt about that. And you'll learn some things from that. And once again, in a modern day, you need to treat people well. You need to pay people well and treat them with what's acceptable. But real connection's going to come with the two things I've already spoken
just going
about.
through it,
Once
listening
it's
through,
your value
making sure there's
program,
no
begins
pops,
to
cracks,
tap into
distortion,
people's giving,
anything like
tap
that.
into them.
We can level it out a bit if we want while we're at it.
Living
but
beyond themselves,
most of that's
which is
like
a
good
key
thing with these
factor
mics.
to
They're dynamic
what makes
mics,
an
pretty
individual
consistent
healthy.
sounds. So.
And then the whole idea of the organisational purpose and helping people to find their purpose within that purpose. One of the things that we've discovered in our work is that over the last good period of time in our life, we've spoken about jobs. We've lost the concept of vocation. Now, vocation comes from the Latin word voca, which is to call, this sense of calling. Now, we've lost that concept of calling. It's moved to, churches or higher ed or even hospitals and so on. I think we need to rediscover vocation back into corporations. Even politicians, good politicians have that sense of calling. This is what they are to do with their lives. Well, I think going forward, we're going to find more people looking for vocations, which I think it's going to mean people spending longer in employment in organisations. So that trend of, short term, which is what we see in Gen Y, I think that'll turn around because people will look for vocations. They'll look for meaning in the organisation and in the relationships that come within that organisation.
I don't know how fully.
Yeah, and I guess one of the other areas I'd love to
it is
cover
great
off with
if you've
you
got a calling.
in this
That's cool.
podcast is, I guess, what we'd often.
I
call
guess
the
I do
third
with
leg
my
of the
sound and
stool,
stuff,
which is
and I'm
values
my own
and
boss now.
behaviours.
But
and that's one of the key elements of driving engagement.
life is long. You can have more than
John
one.
Maxwell, one of the leadership experts, would often
employment.
talk about a values-driven leader as a level 5 leader. What
do
role
think
do you
having a
see
calling
in the
is so
values and
important,
behaviours? You
doing
mentioned
what you love.
purpose, shared value. Values and behaviour seems to be the third leg of the stool.
Yeah, there's no
How
doubt.
do you see that playing out within an organisational context?
Well, once again, it's key. But let me emphasise behaviours as distinct to values. I've run many a workshop around what are the values, and you come up with words like respect and integrity and all. No one's going to argue with any of that stuff. But how do you hold people accountable to respect? Unless you are beginning to actually look at the behaviours that make up what is it that makes respect is the thing that needs to be looked at there. I would what we are emphasising going forward are what are the behaviours, what are the things that I can be accountable for as distinct to this nice word that hangs on a wall called respect or integrity or honesty or courage or whatever, unless we're actually beginning to define what they mean, not even just in the defining of the word, but what's the implication in the way I behave that I can be then accountable.
So come up with behaviour statements that are measurable, that are observable, that can be lifted into a performance framework, and then accountability driven.
Key factor because then you're beginning to touch character, which once again is a key factor in engagement.
For an organisation looking to take the next step in driving engagement,
You know what? Well, let's just shorten that gap a little
Character,
bit.
which once again,
Easy way to do this, just shuffle, deletes everything in between, put a bit of a fade,
is a key factor in engagement.
go back to grid.
for an organisation looking to take the next
Simple.
step in driving engagement, and prefacing that by saying that coronavirus is among us, is above us, is around us, and organisations are moving to more remote working models. What do you see then as the next key critical steps, do you think, if organisations are seeking to drive engagement?
If you're interested, check out
Well, I think
Apricot Consulting. There's some great interviews on there.
it's- I think it's
I
new
think they're just on
ground.
podcasts, on
I think
Apple
leadership
Podcasts.
needs to be intentional about this. So leaders have got to understand actually what's happening here. So I think it's going to mean from a leadership perspective, probably touching base with staff on a more intentional basis. What does that mean? Well, it may mean, through Teams or LinkedIn or not LinkedIn, but, through Skype or something, hey, just checking in to see that you're doing okay, because there isn't that kind of just walking past the office and, say, how was morning tea today? That stuff we're going to have to be more intentional about. I think it's going to, as I said before, the whole accountability factor is going to kick in.
Welcome, guys, in chat.
Our research is
Thanks for joining us. Doing a podcast here by Apricot Consulting. Pop in, say good day, say hello, ask some questions.
So if people aren't around,
we're really just listening through at the moment.
In the office and where there's that kind of connection, how do you hold people accountable if you're not clear about that?
Yeah, we're just listening through, checking for mistakes or
having
pops
difficult
or
conversations
or
and so on,
whatever.
which often can come through with accountability. So once again, this is where
we've done a bunch of EQ, bit of cleaning up,
is becoming just so
bit
relevant.
Of compression,
the idea around
and we just want
what's
to
purpose.
About
Keys, themes around leadership,
-16,
key themes around engagement,
LUFS maybe a little bit less,
around communication, key themes
we're
around
also just
innovation,
in a bit of click game rather than some
key
beta movements,
themes
just
around
cleaning,
agility,
leveling
key
it out
themes
slightly.
around accountability. Take innovation for an example. If
it's okay to have some dynamic. We don't want too much on a podcast. You really want it to be as flat as possible. If people listening in cars and stuff, you don't want them to have to turn it up.
Popular.
Especially with these like trailing offs here where people trail off a little bit.
In innovation, one, it's got to be in a safe place, but innovation is found in trusting relationships.
There. We'll do one here too.
There's a myth around innovation of the Newton, the apple falls on my head and I find a new law. That's kind of a myth. Innovation comes in trusting intimate relationships where often people are in the same room together. How are we going to do that in isolation over video? I think there's a lot of thinking to be done in that space.
Talk about agility and the role of that in this new era. And I guess it connects back to engagement, but certainly this is if we're talking about coronavirus for a moment, because obviously it is a macro and a micro reality right now, as the role of agility and being adaptable and...
Well, that's the fascinating part to me. How agile our organisation is going to be in actually living in industry where we've never done this before. How are we going to do this? I've got no idea, and I think it's going to be fascinating. That's why I'm saying leaders are going to have to be intentional about this. How are they going to be agile about...
Sorry, guys, there's not much to talk about. We're just really listening. There's
agile
not much to
about
go on about.
accountability.
There's a technology piece too.
Got any questions on YouTube when you watch this back? Let us know.
Meetings,
correct.
Communication that goes with that.
Correct.
They've just recorded it with a couple of those
interests.
The new,
when you
roads.
So take an extrovert. I'm an extrovert.
Podmic, is it called?
I'm empowered to have people.
It's good because you can't really hear the room too much, but they're definitely not in a treated room.
So it's
recording on their
ways,
phone.
It's the antithesis to the corporate move
end
where
sting,
to
so we just chuck that there. So
where
we've got a bit of
everybody's
the sting
in the
comes
room,
in for a little bit
kind of
beforehand,
and so on, which was
then
great for extroverts, awful for introverts.
At the end.
But we're also going to now the other extreme of where introverts are going to be. They're going to love it because they're going to be on their own and in their own homes and so on. Extroverts are going to struggle. What's also then going to be interesting is that once the virus gets solved or we get an antidote or whatever, actually getting people back into the community office. Now that's going to be an interesting thing.
So the role of a leader then as a change manager,
got a lot of reverb there, so we're just going to come back and
be an interesting thing.
So the role of a leader then as a change.
We want to dip this down again. We could be doing this with faders, but for some reason Yukon's playing up, and I think it's good to show you like this because you can just do it with click.
So the role of a leader then as a change manager,
is huge.
As a shepherd, as a guide.
That's as a coach.
As a coach
is huge going forward. There's no doubts.
It sounds like it positions Apricot in a very good spot to be able to help organisations who are looking to make that transition in this time.
Oh, I think that's right.
Just going to just boost this up a little bit more.
Sounds like it positions Apricot in a very good spot to be able to help organisations who are looking to make that transition in this time.
Oh, I think that's right. It's actually, and how do we do that? Well, we've got to walk with people in the midst of this. There is no other way I know because you got to walk with people because it's a sense of discovery of the ways together.
Some fascinating insights, Derek.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this important topic of engagement. Thank you to our listeners also for joining us on Inside Healthy Teams. Join us next month.
Thanks,
Thank you.
James. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Inside Healthy Teams by Apricot Consulting. We hope you found it helpful. And if you did, it would help us if you could rate and review this episode
What
on
a
your
sexy
podcast
voice.
platform and subscribe for more episodes. For more information, go to apricotconsulting.us.
Cool. That's it. We just smashed it out. B-Foot, welcome back. What was for lunch? I made a couple of ham and stuff wraps, so reasonably healthy. Although there was some coleslaw in there, and there was a lot of coleslaw dressing, so probably not that healthy. And a banana muffin that my wife made with my daughter yesterday, and that was delicious. Cool, so we're done. So we can just bounce this down. What episode are we up to? I'm assuming we're up to episode 7, if that was 6. Yeah, cool. I'm just going to bounce that out. We also bounce out the MP3 that I will be uploading onto their website, but you don't need to see any of that boring stuff. I'll be changing the names and doing that later. How is Sarah and the kids? They are awesome. I've got 2 daughters now. They're both May babies. So turning 2 and 5. Jeez, they're getting old. It's weird. I don't feel that old myself. But anyway, they're doing great. Sarah's working for herself, so we both are at the moment, and it's awesome. We've got lots of flexibility, and we're doing a bit of work together, but no complaints. We're doing really well. Thanks for asking. Cool. So we are bouncing this down, and look, to be honest, uploading it to their website and stuff is boring. I won't be showing you how I do all that. Just using, it's a WordPress website, and we're just using there's a podcasting plugin that is great for uploading on there. Other than that, if you've got any other questions, I'll be doing this one probably again next month, but feel free to reach out if you want to know more about podcasts. And yeah, we'll call that a quick stream. So thank you very much for coming.